Hello. So in this lecture we will learn about assets, styles, themes and XML drawables, which will cover most of the UI requirement for your Android programming. Assets, as some of you may already know, are content that we want to ship with our app. So for example, we want to ship images, we want to ship audio, or if we want to ship videos, then we have already seen one way of doing it. One, for example, when we created different images for icons, we just included them into the REST file. Assets are the another way in which you can ship non-Java things. Okay, the files, the videos, audios that your app may need. So today we are going to learn about assets. Assets are very useful when your extra files are much larger in size than a normal files or than a small number of files. For example, if you have only, let's say, one audio, it may just be fine to include it in your app without using the assets concepts. But if you have an app which is using 10-20 audios of a considerable duration, that means considerable size, it may be good to use the assets. So let us learn about assets so that you know both of the main ways in which you want to ship non-Java, non-programming content with your app. So we will learn about assets and then we will go into styles and themes. That is how to make good UIs and XML drawables, again continuing on the UI. And we will learn all of this in a program while coding, so that not only you learn the concepts, you also know how to make programs using these concepts. I have taken the program example from the Beginner Ranch Guide. It is the program example which they give for assets and style themes and XML drawables. You can download the code from their website, but here in this video we will be developing that code and you can see how that code works. So let's get started. So number one is that we will start with creating a new project, obviously, but before that I would say that you understand the difference between assets and resources. Resources are something which we have been working with uh, so far now, that is things which we have been putting in the RAS directory. Now we will use a different way which we call as assets. So let's get started by first creating a new project. So we start a new project. You can give it a name. Let's say call it my beat box or my beat grid. We don't change anything in the other part. We start, we do an empty activity, we so we have started a new project and we created an empty activity. We gave it the name my beat grid activity and we are calling the project my beat grid project. So let's see, let me just show you the file names. So this has been created and now we will start working with rest of the code. So we will again be using what we learned earlier, the recycler view. So let's first add the support for the recycler view and we will be then creating the layout files. So yeah, so let's first add the support for the recycler view. I click on file, I click on project structure, I click on app I go to dependencies, I click on plus, I click on library dependencies, and I click on what we did earlier, that is the recycler view. So I type recycler, I okay, I type recycle. Yeah, so I got the com.android.support recycler view version 7 colon 24.2.1. So I add it, I press OK. So yes, now I have added the support for recycler view. Now let us create a layout file. So we go to the res, we go to the layout. We are creating our main layout file. Let's call it so we will not be using the default layout file that is there. We will be creating different layout, and let's first rename it. So I would like to rename this file, and as I told you earlier that the best and recommended way to rename a file is click on the right, go to refactor, and then choose the rename. And when you choose the rename, you can call it fragment underscore beat underscore grid. You do the refactor, the file is renamed. Now let's go to the text and modify it a little bit. So I will be using the recycler view, so I removed all this and I say android dot support dot v7 dot widget dot recycler view. Remove the text and I remove this. And in that I let this line be. I can remove other things. So I'm adding an ID, calling it fragment underscore beat grid underscore recycler underscore view. So I have given an ID. For layout width and height, I am okay with the transparent. Let's save it. See how it looks. So we will, when we build the project, hopefully will all go away. So far we are not worried about it. So it is telling us that there is an invalid token. So let's check it. So there was a space, I have removed it. Now let me rebuild my project. Hopefully the error is gone. Yeah, so as you can see that there was a space here which once removed the error is gone. So now the kind of interface that we want to make is will be in a grid structure, and every grid item will be a button which we can press, and that button should play a different sound. The idea of this program is to give you how do we include these different sounds as assets, and then we will be doing some UI work on the buttons and the grids. So let's get started. So we have created the basic. Now let's create another layout file for the button. So I go out layout, I do new, I add layout resource file, and I am gonna name it list underscore item underscore sound. So this looks fine to me. I create a layout file, I go into the text, let me remove all this and just add a button. So we will be, let me copy some of the work that we need. Tools, list item sound button. Android layout height, just want to make a decent size button, and then Android layout width equal to match parent, and then we just want to use the tools text so that we are sure how the names will be displayed when they are ready to be displayed. So this is kind of our button that we will be using. I will come back to this and I will explain you why I have given you a width equal to match parent. Now the first step to programming is to create a fragment. So let's go back to program and we create our fragment. We will call it beat grid fragment. So we develop some code, we extend it using fragment. We are sure that we are using the support library, and then we go to create a new instance static method just like we have done earlier, so that we can return an instance of it. Instance. and then we override the onCreate view. Just to remind, whenever we create fragments, we override onCreate view instead of onCreate, which we used to do when we were overriding the activities. Saved stance state view view flatter. First let me do this another. So now we inflate our view. So we are going to inflate the view which we created earlier. So r.layout.fragment.beatGrid, we want to put it in this container and false, just as we have been doing so far. Now because we are going to use our recycler view, recycler view equal to recycler view find view by id r dot id dot fragment recycler view, and then recycler view dot set layout manager, and now we will set the grid layout manager because we want a grid. We give and we want a grid of 3. Now let's return view. So just like last time, we are using a recycler view. With that, we have to set out the layout manager. As you remember that in the XML files, we have not given any layout manager. So we are giving the layout manager here, and for us the layout manager is the grid layout manager. So earlier we were using a layout manager of linear layout in the previous example. Now we are using a grid layout. This is also your first example using a grid layout. Okay, so now let's continue and let's make sure that we also have some buttons in our grid layout. So we create another class in the same file, sound holder expands cycler view dot view holder private button hem button public sound holder layout inflator view group container. First we call the super, and that super belongs to this super inflator dot inflate r dot layout dot list item sound container false. So this is the layout of the button, the second layout which we created here. So this is that layout. then button equal to button item view dot find view by id r dot id dot list item sound button. Yes. So now we have created a layout, grid layout, and then we added a button to it. And this is a grid layout of 3 cross 3. So ideally you should see 9 buttons when we run the program. But still a lot more is left because we are using recycler view. Uh, we need to make sure that we also have an adapter which is hooked up to this sound holder, this view holder. So we need a view holder and an adapter in recycler view. The view holder is here. We have to create an adapter. So just in the same file, we create another class for the adapter, sound adapter extends recycler view dot adapter, and so we give the sound holder for which we want the adapter. Right. So as you see that I select the adapter, I press Alt Enter, the studio gives me an option of implement methods. So let me click on it. So it will implement 3 methods. One is the on create view holder and on bind view holder and the count. These are the methods for which we have to anyway write the code. So let's just press OK and Android Studio enter the code. Obviously there will not be any real code, there will just be a skeleton here. So but still we are saved from typing all this. So let's go and start implementing our first method, which is the on create view holder. And in this, we, as you already know, we don't do anything much than inflating a layout inflator, and we give the activity. Then we return new sound holder inflator parent. For the time being, we will leave these method as it is. Now we have created an adapter, we have created a view holder. We will have to now do some wiring. So we will have to use this adapter in the on create view. So in the on create view, we did just one line, which is to set adapter and our new sound adapter. That's it. And for hooking up the adapter, and then the next thing is to bring this fragment into the main activity. So now we have to wire the fragment into the activity. So we will be using the file which we used earlier because it is a single fragment and we want to include that single fragment into the activity. So as you know that last time we created an abstract file single fragment activity for the reason that we will be using it again and again when we do Android programming. So go back to your previous code, find out the file single fragment activity and just bring it in here. So and after that we will use that file. So let me just do that. So I go to my current folder in which I am developing it, which is given here. So my current folder is in teaching, mobile computing, Android programming 2E, and I have my beat grid. I have my previous report intent. This is my previous program. I go to app, I go to SRC, go to main, I go to this, I go to Java, and I go through all the path, and I find my single fragment activity.java which I created last time. So this is just, I'm just finding my previous file. You can find a previous file from a previous code, and then I copy this and I commit to my current program, and I paste it. So yes, so I copy pasted my file. Now let me go back to my code. So now you see that my Android Studio is showing my new copied file. Let me just check it. So this package is wrong, so I would like to fix the package. So there is a manual way. For example, I have to just add that instead of this. I could have also used Android Studio to fix it by right clicking and then fixing it. That would have been fine as well, but currently I am just doing that. And now I have to do few more things. So as you can see that we are missing activity fragment, fragment container, fragment container. These were defined in the XML file which we had in the REST folder. So let's also copy the XML files as well. So I will go back to my previous code, go to app, src, main, and go to resource. In the resource, in the layout, this was the file that we had created. I copy it, come back, and go to the new code, app, src, main, resource, layout, and paste it. Now let's see, and as you can see that all the errors are now gone. So in this code you also see that how we can make use of previous files, because we created them so that they can be reused, and here we can see the reuse of them. So the only thing that we need to change now is the activity file of this program. So far we were just doing it what we received by default. So let's remove it and change the code. We will also do the override protected fragment and the create fragment method, because that is what is needed for our program to work. And here our create fragment method will return the fragment which is suitable for this program. So yes, it is now fine. And let me run it. Let me compile it first. So I'm compiling the program. So let's run our program and see what we have done so far. So as you see that we are not seeing anything because we have created the fragment, but we have not yet brought that fragment into the into anything so far, because we are not using the layouts in the fragments, and this is fine because that's how we were expecting when we first start our program. Just the empty screen comes in. So now let's start working on it, and we should uh, import assets. So today's lecture is more about assets. Now let's start working with that. So the first step in importing assets, and an asset could be anything. It could be an image file, it could be a video audio file, it could be anything. So for importing assets, we will first create an asset folder inside our project. So let's go to the app module and new create a folder and assets folder. So you see that in the new, I come down to the folder and to the assets folder. So we just leave it like this, and it says the target source set main change folder location. No, we don't. We just press the finish, and now you can see that something here appears. So I have created this asset folder. So I went to the app, created new, used the folder and assets folder. Once I clicked it, I did not change anything in the menu. I just pressed finish, and this assets folder has arrived. Now, because we may be using different types of assets in our program, usually it is a good strategy to organize the different assets in different directories. So let's just create a directory here, and we can call it, because we are just using some sound file in this program, so we can just call it sample sound, and this create a small directory subdirectory into it. This is not necessary, we could have put everything on the assets, but we just, for the sake of convenience and organization, we are creating a subdirectory. Now we will be using some sounds to be put into the subdirectory. So when you deploy your applications which are using sounds, please always make sure that you are using Creative Commons license sounds. So you are not using sounds which are copyrighted by other bodies. And for example, if you want to create an app which is playing different songs, make sure that you have the copyright for those songs before you start deploying that app on the Play Store. So since this is only an example application, we will use some sounds which we can find. So let's try to get some sounds from the internet which we believe are Creative Commons license sounds. So I go to the internet, I type Creative Commons sound files, and when I press enter, so Creative Commons sound files, I press enter and I get this first link, freesound.org. So now here whatever sound samples I am getting are actually the samples which do not have which have a Creative Commons copyright, so I can hopefully use it. So now let me go back and use some of these. So since we are using the Big Nut Ranch sample, they have already downloaded some of these files from the site which we just saw, freesounds.org. So now let's just go to their site and download these. So just go to bignutranch.com/solutions slash sample underscore sounds dot zip. So please type the full name before you press the enter. So the full name, as you can see, is this slash solutions slash sample sounds dot zip. press the enter, and I can see the file downloaded on my PC. So we are going to use the sounds from this file. So this is after I have unzipped my folder. Let me select all of these, Control C, and then I will go and copy them into my assets folder. Yes. Now let's go back to our code and see. Oh yes, so we can see the sound files here. So our app, we are just going to rebuild the project so that to make sure that everything is working. So we have now copied some sound files from with the Creative Commons license. Now let's go back to our code and start making some changes so that we can see and play these sounds. So let's create a new class. So the new class is BeatGrid class. First few static string variables, because we want to use it maybe if we are going for some debugging or some other purpose. And then we also another static variable to make sure that we use it correctly to indicate to the folder that we have created. So string sounds folder equal to sample sound. So that's the name of the folder that we have created, and the earlier string is about the tag which we normally do. Now the assets, whenever you create assets in a program, they are accessed using a class called asset manager, and we can get asset manager from any context, and we will be using the asset manager in our this class to use our assets. So private asset manager, I will just call it assets, and then assets equal to context dot get assets. So we have assigned our assets to the asset manager, which we will now use to load the sound files and also to play them when we click on the button later in the program. So let's create a program called load sounds. This program is not yet there, so we will have to create it. Private void load sounds. So in our load sounds, we will just like to list all the sound files, names, try sound names equal to assets dot list our path, and then we are just using a log message to know that we are working fine. Found just a normal message, length, sounds, just catch an IO exception. Could not, just a simple message, could not list. Right. Okay, so this is just a simple method to know that what sounds we have in our sounds folder. Now let's create an instance of this class into our main fragment class, and then maybe run our app to find out that everything is working fine. So yeah, so this was our main app. We will now go to we will override the on create, public void on create bundle saved instance state super dot on create saved instance state, and well, first variable for our beat crate, private beat crate mbeat crate, and then we call that instance here new beat crate, and we pass the reference to the activity. Now let's run this program and look at the log messages that we get. Hopefully we should get a list of all the files that are in our sound folder. I'm running the program and I am just magnifying the log messages here. Mhm. Says oh yes, so it says here found 22 sounds. So these were 22 and we have got the correct log message. Yes. So everything is working fine so far, and we have to still see some things on our display, and we have to still use the assets that we have just transferred. So let's create another file, another Java class, a new sound.java. So what this will do is that it will try to wire up a lot of things which we can then use in our activity to play the sounds. Private string asset asset path, private string string m name public sound string asset path m asset path equal to asset path string. We want to take the path and find out the actual name, so we will have to do some string manipulation. So asset path we can get, we'll do a split with this symbol, and then we find out the actual name. Components dot components components dot length -1, then mname equal to file name dot replace dot fab, which is the extension, with nothing. So we only get the name of the file but not the extension in the name. And then we just write two getter methods. So public string get asset path, return the ms path, public string get name, return the name. So we will soon be making use of the sound file. Now we have some more work to do. So basically we will have to now go to again our BeatGrid class and make use of the sound file. We'll have to essentially arrange all these sounds file into something uh, sort of a list. So we will be using an array list, and then we will be making use of the sounds file by attaching the actual sound files into the asset folder uh, to our BeatGrid. So let's go to our class BeatGrid again, and in that we had the load sounds, except that now we will be adding a for loop. You may have already seen the use of this for loop. This goes to the each element of the array. So it will go to each element of the array. So instead of writing int I equal to 0, I less than array length, I plus plus, I can just write this, and the file name will go to the each element of the array, and with using the file name I can refer to that array element. Path equal to sounds folder plus file name equal to new sound asset path. So now I have to add this sound to an array list. First let me create an array list here. So just after this I will create private list sound private list sound, and we will give it the name m sounds. equal to new array list. Tar, tar, yeah. So now let's come down and add our new sound to the array list. And then we just create a getter method for getting the list. Get sounds, return m sounds. So this completes, and now let us go back into our fragment class, the BeatGrid fragment class, and we should add some code in the sound holder to bind it to a particular sound. So we go to the private class sound holder and we will be adding some code here to bind it to a particular sound. So private sound m sound public void bind sound sound m sound equal to sound m button dot set text equal to m sound dot get names. Now you can see that when for the button we will just want to display the name of the file but not the value extension. So that is good. Now let's fire up the sound adapter as well. So our adapter is here. So our adapter first need to make use of that list which we recently created. So private list sound m sounds, and then first you will have to create a very simple constructor, adapter list sounds m sounds equal to sounds. Then we come to our on bind view holder which was so far empty, and here we will do a little wiring m sounds dot get position, and then holder dot bind sound, and now we can also return something actual which is m sounds dot size. Now let us use this new adapter definition into our original method of the beat grid fragment. So we had on create view method. So this was our older one. Now we just need to do m grid get sounds to make use of our new constructor. So this is fine, and now we are ready to do a first run of our application, and hopefully we should now see 9 buttons with the names of the files written on them, or maybe more than 9 buttons because we are only defining 3 in the horizontal grid. So yeah, so when I was saying 3 cross 3, the 3 cross 3 is not necessary. The 3 that we defined there only refers to the horizontal. Vertically, it will depend on your device. So let's see. And because we are using a recycler view, vertically actually it will show all the files till the very end. And what is displayed will be depending on what you want to be displayed on your, depending on your display size. So let's run. Oh yeah, so as you can see that because I'm using a bigger display, I can actually see 5 vertical, but yes, my horizontal are 3, and then given the recycler view I can scroll them. So this is some nice view that we are getting here. It is also something which we have created first time. So that is fine. So we gave the 3 in the very beginning in the grid layout when we defined the grid layout. Let us see where it was. In the fragment we had defined this 3. So the 3 refers to the horizontal row. We are only getting 3. Let's try to manipulate it by creating, let's say, 2. Run the same program. Now you see 2, but 3 look better, so we will convert it back to 3, and we do that. And because it is a recycler view, we can scroll up and down. So we have done some good learning today. We used the assets, we reused our recycler view and adapter and view holder. We also made use of the abstract classes that we done. In the next lecture, we will do some audio playback because so far I can press the button but nothing plays. We will like to see that something plays when we press the button. So that is for the next lecture. Thank you.